Hello there, everyone. Welcome to our official Q&A. I hope everyone is hearing me right. And I see already a lot of people online. The chat is very active. And we have loads of devs here ready to answer your questions. And actually, you guys can say hello, so unmute yourselves.
Hi guys, welcome.
Hello,
Hello guys.
Hello.
Hello.
And Jox is still muted. So, yeah, basically here we have Frusty, the Dwarf Lord, Case, Maron, or Dom Myroni, as you wish, Hedred, me, and I'm gonna be reading the questions that you sent through Google. Aganas. Hi, Aganas. I didn't think you were gonna be here. Then we have Leo as well, Maestro, who's going to be very active answering all of your campaign design questions, and Victimized. So, yeah, loads of people here. If we want to start with some banter, I don't know, are you guys excited for these questions? I don't know if you have already read them or something.
I've gone through a couple, but apart from that, I'm going in blind.
We were talking about writing some jokes beforehand, but I don't think anyone ever followed through with that. At least I didn't.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I think Maron sent a Rowan when question.
Well,
like that.
That's meant to be the most important question. It really is
of course.
Question. Rohan when,
yeah, the deleted faction.
Yeah, Rohan when.
Yeah, exactly. Rohan when, never.
Rohan when,
We're
never.
gonna keep it to ourselves.
We're never gonna release.
Yeah. And so, yeah, guys, I think we can already start. We have a lot of questions to be covering. And yeah, we can start. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, for the chat, let us know if there's any audio issues.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, I'm gonna just tell you guys how we're going to go over it. We have loads of questions that we received from a Google form that we published a few days ago. It's like over 100 questions, and like 100 questions is just the format for Google. In the end, in every question, there are like sometimes 10 questions. So, you know, there's a lot of ground to cover, and we are really, we're going to try to speed this up as much as possible. So I'm gonna ask you guys, the developers, to keep them short. And for the questions in the live chat, we will be trying to answer them later on, like at the end of the stream, like actually at the end of the list of the questions that we already have. But trust me on this, we have loads of questions, and they probably cover your, whatever you want to know about the mod and the future of the mod. So, guys, again, don't talk over each other because, we have a past of doing this. And, of course, when I call you or something like that, you can, unmute yourself and we can start. So, this list is actually so huge. And actually, guys, talking for the chat, later on we will be showing off our, the campaign map, because why not? So stay around and, get ready for that. And at the same time, subscribe to the channel, because, we have loads of content coming in. We are actually, planning some huge stuff. And at the same time, join our Discord if you haven't already. So you're gonna be seeing loads of preview there as well. So we have a few, this is the first questions that we chose to answer to. It's quite long, so a lot of things to say. And it is from Brandon B. And, he has said some wholesome stuff about the mod. I have no idea if let's read it. You're all wonderfully talented people, hardworking, and we are all blessed that Tolkien's world will be playable on a newer game that brings along all the beauty and wonder that you all can pack into it. I've been a fan of Lord of the Rings for many years, I saw it first on those double VHS tapes my dad had when I was really young. I think it was 2007. Since then, I've been a total nerd and nooked on Lord of the Rings. It warms my heart that someday, soon we will be able to see our favorite characters and races battle it out in the thousands on our own screens. You're a rock, and thank you. Cheers. So these are the questions from Brandon. The first one, I guess this is for Maestro, because a lot of people were asking about the replenishment in, after the Rohan campaign overview. So this is the questions. In one video, you mentioned replenishment at the campaign level. This was in the Rohan campaign guide released recently. Some more replied to my question there about the feature, but is there any more details you awesome people can offer? Who will get the feature? Will it differ between factions? How will it work? Just higher tiers, units, or even chaff and the like? I have no idea what chaff means. Will there be unique buildings not connected to the build trees? Okay, so this is a lot of questions. So I guess the first question for my story is, the replenishment in Rise of Mordor.
In the newer titles for Total War, replenishment happens automatically in your own territories. Whereas in older titles, you'd have to manually retrain your units. So titles like Medieval 2, Rome 1. What we're aiming for in Rise of Mordor is essentially a hybrid between those two. Automatic replenishment will essentially be 0. You will not have automatic replenishment unless you have built a specific military supplies building. If you have a military supplies building in your province, you'll get automatic replenishment in that province. That's the idea. Replenishment will happen more slowly for elven factions and perhaps dwarven factions, but the details on that are still unclear. But yeah, that's essentially it. You have to build a special military supplies building. If you build the supplies building, you'll get replenishment in that province.
Okay, so how about tiers? Maybe, will it differ between different tiers?
I do not think it's actually possible in Attila to differentiate different level rates of replenishment for units. I think it's only possible to sort of do them on a geographical basis. No, I think it's very unlikely there'll be a differentiation based on tiers. Of course, higher tier units will be harder to recruit, of course. They'll take up more recruitment capacity, but recruitment is something else compared to replenishment.
All right. Then he's asking about buildings. So he's saying, will there be unique buildings not connected to the build trees? And I assume they will need to take up a spot, thus limiting the building spots available, the likes of the Tower of Orthanc, Meduseld, and so on. So I guess you can, say about our buildings limit as well.
Yeah. So indeed, first talking about the building slots, Attila offers 6 slots for provincial capitals and 4 slots for other settlements. We plan on increasing that, probably to 9 for provincial capitals and 6 for minor settlements, perhaps 10 and 8. But yes, there will also be wonder buildings. Wonder buildings will be 1-level buildings, like the Married Dam in Attila, which you can have access to if you got the Desert Kingdoms or Empires of Sand. I'm not sure what the DLC is called, but they have a wonder building as well. It essentially works like that. It's just a 1-level wonder building you can't destroy, but you might be able to convert it. So, for example, if you are playing as Isengard, you can convert the Tower of Orthanc special wonder building into an evil version and then start pumping up Balrog units. Just like in the books. I hope that answers.
Basically, you just it does. I'm sure of it. You basically spoiled the beginning of the script for Isengard, so
it's quite a straightforward one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll
he has. Yeah, great. We have another question, always from Brandon, and this one I guess is for our own jocks, Victimize. So how are the map tools coming along? I see progress once in a while when I can catch a look at the recent videos, and it's very promising. Any snags or issues that have arisen? I hope not. So yeah, Are there any issues with the map tools?
The only issues is to pick the perfect time. Like, I don't know, I don't always have free time to do the tool non-stop. I'm always distracted into architecture and other stuff. I probably should focus on the campaign mostly, but in terms of other issues, there are not. In terms of progress, you guys so love to ask. If you love the persons, it would be something like 60 to 80% complete, but you have to keep in mind the rule of 80 on 20. So 80 is the amount of work we've done, 20 is the amount of work left to do, but we've spent like 20% of our resources and time to make those 80%. So even though there's a little bit left, that little bit will take a lot of time to complete. That's about the progress. I'm done.
Makes sense. So Victimize is working on a lot of stuff because he's actually he's a technical director, which means he's very experienced in everything that concerns technical stuff. So architecture is demanding a lot. So if we want to pump out those beautiful maps, we need this kind of stuff. My most burning questions: have there been any rumors or even remarks from I think Warner Bros. Or whoever owns the licenses nowadays about shutting down? I understand you all have been very firm in not taking donations to help avoid their ire. I've not heard anything, and with development of this mod coming along this far, it seems things are good for now. So maybe this question is more for Maestro, since he's our official lawyer.
Sure. So the short answer is no. We've not encountered any issues with Warner Brothers in any sort of way. The only issue we've had to deal with is the fact that we are no longer allowed to publish our mod on Steam. But that is something from Creative Assembly, so the company behind Total War. It's not something from Warner Brothers, so it's not dangerous in any way. We just have to rely on ModDB and Nexus to publish our mod to you, rather than Steam Workshop. Other than that, no issues.
I have something to add to that. So I was wondering why different companies treat the legal issues differently. Like you can see the Kingdoms Come devs, they actually promote their Lord of the Rings mod. So the answer to that is that different companies decide themselves how to treat that kind of third-party mods. So CA decided to treat the third-party mods with caution to avoid any potential issues. But as you can see, it does happen that mods get closed due to the third-party and copyrighted content usage, or based on copyrighted content, like the Middle Earth roleplay project. You can look it up, but nothing hence it will happen again, at least if we don't try to commercialize the mod, which we never plan to do.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll see, and for now we're just keeping it safe, keeping it secret. So the last question from Brandon, which is actually I think it's one question. I'm not sure if this has been asked before, and it's probably quite obvious, but why will you leave Eriador out on the first release? How will it work? Invisible wall? Just not on the map at all? And is it fair to say that the same applies to Ravanion and the other areas to the north? I assume it's merely for the sake of releasing a campaign that we can play sooner rather than trying to finish all areas for a first release. So yeah, this is something that it's really important to tell you guys about our plans for the release of the campaign. I think still Maestro can shed some light on that.
Sure. Yes. Relatively recently, we decided to release the campaign in 3 waves. So it were on the first wave, the first release, you'll get access to 10 factions, and I'm going to try to remember them from the top of my head. I think they are Gondor, Rohan, Harad, Easterlings, Mordor, Isengard, Dol Guldur, Wooden Realm, Dale, and Erebor. I think that's all of them. And then in the second release, we'll add Lorien, Gundabad, the Goblins, and the Anduin Vale. and in the third release, we'll add all the factions in Eredor. The reason for that is essentially to get a campaign out earlier for you guys, because there's a lot of work to cover in, say, 18 factions in total, like we're planning to have. So rather than waiting for all 18 to be finished, we were releasing, say, the first 10 earlier, because that's very much possible. Also, gameplay-wise and design-wise, no reason to thought that.
Me?
I'm sorry. Can you still hear me, Allergy?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's essentially the answer to the question. Releasing in 3 ways.
I think LG might
Well,
be
I
the
guess
most
while Elijah is trying to fix his issues, I'll cover something else. So, I actually forgot what I was going to tell. So I read an interesting thought for one personality on one of the Discord servers. So that guy was a little bit pessimistic about the campaign progress. It can be understandable. So he was pessimistic, thinking that we are like lying to people and just trying to jump on a hype train with the campaign and that stuff. But I'm assure you guys, we are developing it. We know everything we have to do to make it working and functional, like fully functional, fully custom. So don't worry, guys, we're on it. But it might take us like you'll find out when it comes to that question.
Okay. So you can hear me fine?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Sorry, guys. I've had a little bit of an issue with the connection. So we were on the same question, right? So that one is done.
Yes, it is.
All right, perfect. Then we can move over to another question from Armored Space Pony, which is quite a great name, I guess. And he's asking a lot more about the development and how we do stuff. So I'm gonna ask this question to Maron, and Maron, do the developers often consider how practical the created armor will be to create and use or certain design choices, or focus certain design choices purely on aesthetics?
Well, absolutely. I think functionality adds a level of immersion to a unit aesthetic. For me, I mean, I'm the art lead, so I sort of dictate what gets through and what doesn't. And I'm against sort of really unrealistic high fantasy, just because it just doesn't fit the Lord of the Rings style and the style that Weta Workshop made. So I personally love functionality, and we've got people like Alter who are really, really into their historical stuff as well. So yeah, that's our direction we take.
That's great. So that also answered the second question, which is a lot about where you get your inspiration from. So a lot of stuff comes from the movies, and then you go along with it, and then you do your own stuff as long as it isn't high fantasy.
I think Weta.
So
go on. Oh, I'll just quickly put in that Weta and the designs we see in the films is our primary source of inspiration. And then there's also a load of unused Weta concept art. And on top of that, then we if there isn't any kind of concept art or anything we can use, then we try and make our own designs. And then those are the ones we base around practicality and yeah.
All right, then we have another question, always from Armored Space Pony. So once one troll model is added, will it be easier to add other troll types or beasts? So this can be the moment where we address how we do basically custom creatures. And actually, I think Jocks can answer that. So you can say what's basically our progress, how we deal with the also Aganas actually, if he wants to, if he can answer. You there, Aganas? Okay. Hope sorry.
Okay, so
yeah.
let's start with the animations. Well, I heard the question that will it be faster or easier to make once we get the trolls in? The answer is no. The problem is not the troubles with getting the stuff in game. The problem is producing the content, and the animation department that we have is the, let's say, the worst at performance in terms of producing content. It doesn't mean the content is bad, but it means that it's super slow. The team is very small. There's nothing wrong with the people, nothing wrong with the team. It's just we can't find enough animators. So if you know any that could help us, or you're an animator yourself, come join us. With the creatures, apparently we are modern Attila, so we don't have the base engine things to implement custom creatures. So we have to reuse the creatures like a horse, camel, elephant. For example, our troll is implemented as an elephant. So in terms of implementation, we are kind of making an imposter creature, but it will definitely work the way you expect it to work.
All right. So yeah, basically there's that, and of course, like I think the point here is also that once the troll is ready and animated, basically we can almost add all the trolls in the game, because in the end it's just textures, I guess, right? And of course weapons and armors, which are far easier than animating a whole new creature. Can we expect more trash tier units to fill up the ranks for all factions, militia type units? I guess we have already made most of the rosters. Basically, once we get to the campaign, maybe we will realize that we need more units. Maestro, if you want to add something to that.
Yeah, sure. Rosters you're seeing on Trello now, if you've been part of the Discord server.
Yeah, actually, sorry. Zarn, maybe our moderators in the chat, if you want to send a Trello, that is where basically all our plans come from.
Yeah.
So, for the factions and the units. So go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so on that page, all the rosters are published, and the rosters you see there will also be the rosters you will see on the campaign side of things, with one or two exceptions. But essentially what you see there is what you can expect for the campaign.
All right. So, yeah, let's go to the other questions. This one is from Mododos, and his question is quite interesting. What do you, as developers, do to ensure that this mod will be completed, rather than end up in the swamp of ambitious but incomplete mods? What are your future plans in terms of working with the community? I think if someone wants to answer that, I'm just gonna say my part, which is basically, I'm not a developer, I'm not making any units or something, I'm just, in charge of promotions and moderation. And basically what I'm doing is, promoting the mod, because I believe that is the best way to get people to play it, and most of all to get people to, join the team and help speed up the development. At this time, maybe, Ered, maybe if you want to answer that as well. We might not have time to get everyone to answer questions, but
I'll just say, for example, I think in the 2D department we'll just work and step-by-step approach and just do our different concepts. We prioritize certain factions depending on if they come out in the first release of the campaign or not. And then I guess it's up to the 3D artists to make those concepts come to life. Yes.
Yeah. let's see if there's something else we can ask to these guys. Maybe this is kind of a great question. How did the modern community of Rise of Mordor start? And this is from X2BRW. Okay, so this is a very random name. So, Jox, if you want to answer that, since you are basically our historian along with Maestro, and not because you researched it, but because you lived it. So, if you want to say how Rise of Mordor was brought to life in very briefly.
Okay, if very briefly, we started as a Realm 2 mod named Lord of the Rings. As simple as that. So the Realm 2 Lord of the Rings, and that's it. At some point, I wasn't on the team from the day zero, but I've joined like within a month since its announcement. And all of the other OG devs except me and Maestro are now gone. We at some point decided to move to Tower of Orthanc as soon as it launched, as we saw it like a better base game. That's the fact that some people forget about us, is that we were actually Realm 2 mod. At some point we wanted to release the mod on both Realm 2 and Attila to please our fans that were loyal to us since Realm 2. But that's it. Yeah, and I guess we are in development for like 6 years. I don't know, since 14. We've restarted it a couple of times because when we started, we had no idea how to mod the newer games. Nobody had that idea. We've spent a couple of years to establish the way to make units in that high quality that you see nowadays, and all that stuff. So that's the prehistory.
Yeah, alright, I think that's enough for you guys. So if you want to join the Discord, we also have some kind of created walls, and you can see there who are the people who were the pioneers of Rise of Mordor. Now we got another question that comes from some community member, and basically he's asking, how useful or tricky do you find to work from someone else's concept art? And I want to ask the question to Frusty, who's actually here streaming on this voice channel. Frusty, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so he's actually, he's working. The guy is working here while he's answering questions. So, So tell us, how useful or tricky do you find it to work from someone else's concept art?
I think it depends much of what kind of concept it is, because after a lot of concepts, I demand now to make concepts when I see character from the front and from the back, because I don't want to think myself how it could look from the back, for example, and the tricky point is to always talk with guy who created the concept, because maybe he didn't add some details, or maybe he forgot about some places which aren't shown on the concept. So it's topic of conversation between two person, the 3D artist and concept artist. So for example, me and Myron.
All right. So that answers that. Okay, so let's move on to some other questions that are still from our very important bunch of questions. Were the developers involved in producing other mods, such as Third Age Total War, prior to the development of Rise of Mordor? At this point, I don't want to ask this question to anyone. If you guys have worked on something else before, if you want to step up.
Just ask one by one, so it's be organized.
Okay, so Frusty, have you ever worked with someone else on another mod?
From our team?
Yeah, no, I don't know from everywhere else. Like maybe from Medieval 2, some team from Medieval 2, or something like the Last Alliance.
No. I only worked for other game, and it wasn't Total War. Yeah, so there was Hearts of Iron from Paradox, and I didn't have any experience before Rise of Mordor about creating stuff for the game, and I learned here much things, mainly thanks to Victimized, who screamed at me, and I screamed at him too, and now we have some models created, and I see it's funny because before Rise of Mordor, I didn't think that there is so much things which I need to know to create only models for the game. Yeah. But
All right.
Out of Rise of Mordor, I didn't I didn't have an experience.
I think Maron and Hedred are both have both worked on something else. So if you guys wanna shed a light on that.
I worked on the Last Alliance briefly, and then I am part of the recent Lord of the Rings Conquest team, and I've just started doing concepts for Divide and Conquer for Medieval 2, but that's very much a side hobby. I'm not leaving Rise of Mordor. No amount of money.
Yeah, I worked with Meron on the Last Alliance.
Okay. And what about you, Ganas, if you are there? Okay. I guess, guys, we can move on to the next question. Let's go for something else. Is the campaign map hard to develop? I read one of your articles something like 5 years ago where you said that modding the Attila map was nearly impossible. It is why I was surprised when you showed us a preview of the campaign map. So we actually made a video on this a while ago where Victimized and an interview with Jackyfish. So Jackyfish interviewed him, and you can see it on our channel, and that will shed a light on that. But
what was the question, LG? Can you repeat it?
Is the campaign map hard to develop? Which I guess it means not only your part of the whole thing. So if you wanna say briefly how it is divided. Go ahead.
In short, yes, it is hard to develop. There are many different things that go into it, and not all of them are very straightforward or even always like clearly possible. And by that, what I mean is not that it's impossible, rather that it requires a lot of trial and error, trying to figure things out, how to do things. So in the past, when you may have heard that the campaign map modding isn't possible, it wasn't that it wasn't, it was simply that no one knew how to do it. It required a lot of really just going in there, getting your hands dirty, figuring out what works, what doesn't, and developing a methodology for working on it, all different parts included.
Okay. So since we're here, actually there was another question that said, Leo, will you make some other stream about the campaign map?
Yes, I just haven't recently, but yes, I actually plan on doing some soon.
Alright, that's great. Yeah, that is all for you guys. If you wanna, those are very very much enjoyed by the community. So, get ready for those. So, will the campaign map tools that the Rise of Mordor team are developing work with the Three Kingdoms or any of the Warhammer games? That's a question, I guess, for Jox, for Victimized.
Okay. An important disclaimer is that the campaign map tools are not affiliated with the Rise of Mordor, so it's two separate projects. The Rise of Mordor is the end user of the tool that's being developed, and I'm the only developer of the tools being a part of Rise of Mordor as well. But there are other developers, other people involved in the campaign, not tools. And those people, they are not the modders of the Total War Attila. So the aim is to release the tools to support all of the games, starting from the Rome 2 and up until Troy. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. So let's go over some other questions, maybe. Okay. So, are you, and if so, how, planning to implement some of the crazier units, such as the Balrog, the Fellbeasts, the Oliphants, the Isengard explosive mines, etc.? I think this is still something for jocks. What we are planning for those.
Creatures. We'll definitely will not be making the flying creatures for the obvious reasons, even though we can take the visuals, but we're not going to make that. It's not like the flying units are that important. Same goes to the Balrog, even though I cannot exclude it, the possibility of adding Balrog at some point, but it's not even in the long-term plans. As of the creatures, we're currently planning the trolls, the spiders, the Mumakil, and the wargs. These are the four beasts the Rise of Mordor stands on.
Alright. So let's go over a question for the campaign. I think this is, a bridge for your work, Maestro, and for your work on Isengard, to be exact. Will there be a ring script for Saruman, and in that case, what could its benefits be?
Good question. Yes, there will be a script for Saruman, and yes, it will involve the Ring of Power. Essentially, what will happen is that Saruman, or essentially the Isengard player, will have to start looking for the ring, try to find where it is, and if he can find it, he must bring it back to Isengard. And when he does that, he will be asked by Sauron to give it to him. And at that point, the player will be given the choice to give the ring to Sauron, stay allied to Mordor, or to betray Sauron and keep the ring for himself. With the latter, various benefits are given to Isengard. Not exactly sure on the details of that yet, but rest assured that if you take the ring for yourself, you'll get plenty of benefit to your faction. With the side effect that Mordor obviously will declare war on you because Sauron is displeased with the fact that you stole this ring from him. Does that answer the question, roughly?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. So now I want to ask a question to Crapshack. What are you most looking forward to making in the mod?
Minas Morgul, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, you were already working on it, I think.
Yes, sort of. We did a lot of work on the actual layout, what we were gonna do, and we came to a decision on it. But we are waiting on the detailing of the walls. We have a rough layout.
Okay. So let's move on to another one, which is, I think, quite wholesome. My question is simple. What faction will you guys be playing first once the mod and thus the campaign is done? I think we can start with Frusty and then go over everyone. Please keep it brief, just say, the faction. Frusty?
After first release, I'm gonna play first game with Gondor.
That is actually, I thought it was gonna be Aragorn, but
No.
in that case, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I wanted to say that my first game in Third Age Total War was Gondor, so I wanted to make first compare, when our mod will be realized.
Okay. Okay, Case.
I think I'll probably start off with Isengard. I think it's probably a really interesting start. So, yeah.
Okay. Maron?
I was thinking Isengard and Gondor. one of the two as well.
Yeah, but pick one. You have to pick one.
Oh, Gondor.
Okay, Edred.
Any kind of elves, really.
Yeah, there we go. For me, it's gonna be Gondor as well, actually. Leo.
Gondor.
Let's go. We got a huge Gondor factory here. Maestro.
Not simply pick a favorite child, but if I had to pick, probably Gondor as well.
Okay.
Gondor from everyone.
Yeah, basically almost. Crapshack.
Gonna be Gondor, so I can rebuild Meduseld.
Perfect. Then of course Jox, and I know that Jox isn't gonna say Gondor.
Easterlings and Haladrim.
There we go. Yeah.
Ooh ah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to other questions. Love everything you created. This is from Sirion Deal. Why did you decide to bring Aragorn as cavalry and not as a shock unit? So this is a question for Maestro. Let's just say that this, Aragorn is going to be available in the custom battle phase, so in the one that we are right now for Imladris, once it's out. And then later on, when we have the campaign, he is going to be, of course, the faction leader for the Durandine Ranger Order. So, Maestro, why a cavalry unit?
Right. The cavalry unit for Aragorn is the Grey Company, and the Grey Company was mentioned to be mounted on several occasions. And it was also mentioned in the books that they often rode together with Eladan and Elrohir, two sons of Elrond. That's why they're cavalry. And the reason they're not shock cavalry is because they are rangers. So they are typically associated with archery. That's why we went with a horse archer unit, the Grey Company.
Okay. What is the quest of the Noldor in the campaign? Which I guess it means what will the Noldorin do in the campaign? So Imladris and basically Lindon. Still Maestro.
Yes, the details of those factions have not yet been set out because they are third release factions, so they'll be released at a later stage. But essentially the idea is that for Lindon, you are asked to sail around Middle-earth using your fleets and help others out everywhere and fight Mordor in particular, as well as the Corsairs potentially. And for Imladris, your goal is most likely something to do with the jewel smiths in Eregion, and rebuilding that. And perhaps also hosting the Council of Elrond and initiating a mission to destroy the ring in Mount Doom.
All right. Another question from Giant is which is the current faction you are working on? And I want to ask that question to one of our concept artists, so Maron. I know that this question might be something like, which faction are you working on as a team? And that is, let's say, Arad and the Easterlings, because those are going to be our, for our next update. But Maron, what are you actually working on these days?
What am I working on? Gosh. Well, I'm working on the Easterlings. A nice special unit that will change gameplay, hopefully. I'm working on Dwarves of Ered Luin. I'm working on Arnor. And I think that's it for now. I've got other jobs, of course, like unit cards, which are all other factions. But that's it for concepts.
Yeah, people. So, yeah, you guys just heard that Maron is working on Ered Luin. So, that is quite big. First of all, great work with the mod. This is from Philip Avlik. And now the question. I would love to start making maps of settlements. And if I may ask, do you have somewhere assets of the buildings, or will they be available in the future? So I want to ask this question to Crapshack, and Crapshack just say, also what things people should do to start making maps.
I believe that anyone can get the buildings that I use to make like submod maps if he's wanting to make Lord of the Rings themed maps. And what was the other part of his question?
Yeah, he's asking where are the assets, but those we know where they are. They're just in the basic pack, I think.
Yeah.
In our Discord. Yeah, and also how to start, what programs do you need, that kind of stuff.
Okay. You need the assembly kit tools that you can just download from Steam, and then you'll get an application called TED. This is where you make the actual map, and I think it's pretty easy to pick up. So yeah, it's a blast to learn.
Okay. Okay. So we have quite a lot of questions from people that are asking, what are we going to do with Gandalf? I think we can ask Maestro that one, if you have any ideas about that. Which faction he's gonna be into and what we want to do with him. And the same goes for Sauron, Saruman, I guess Radagast, Galadriel if you want.
Sure. Sauron will be part of Mordor, obviously. Once you take the ring back, you find it and bring it back to Mordor, you'll get access to Sauron. And then Saruman will be in Isengard, of course. Galadriel will probably not feature herself, but it is possible that we will include her mirror, the mirror of Galadriel, in one way or another. And as for Gandalf, I must confess, no ideas as of yet.
All right. So now we can go over one of the most asked questions, along with when is Rohan. That is, of course, when are we going to release the campaign? And of course, we can't give out estimates. We can just, say something along the lines of, we think that it's gonna be done by then if we don't get any issues. And of course, we also can, maybe that's not even, maybe that's not our answer. So, Victimized, if you want to say something about that, we actually have a lot of people, 11 people who asked that in the forum. So
about the release dates?
Yeah, basically.
So I personally don't understand the reason behind this question, and I know you guys are impatient and want to know when, but the thing is why we never say the release date is because plans may change and we're not employed. We are doing it for our hobby, and everyone can drop off any moment and it will change all of the plans. So we have like one person assigned to a faction, and if that person drops off, then you'll not be able to see that faction released anytime soon, even though if we had like 16% down. So that's why we never ever saying the progress. So for example, you all know the menu who made the elves, all of the elves that you love and play. So he just dropped off due to his real life issues, and because of that you're not going to see elves anytime soon. So if you want estimates like the campaign, I can say that the most possible date is like a year or even 2 from now.
Okay. So that's basically our standard answer. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that you are going to see some elves because Uchiro is working on them. So, just so people.
Yeah. Basically, we are still working on the elves. Don't lose your hopes, of course.
LG, could I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
So one more thing regarding campaign development. Victimized is obviously entirely right. We're all doing this for free and putting our spare time in it, so it's irregular and it's unpredictable. But I can give you a little bit of insight of what still needs to happen from a game design point of view. Obviously, we're waiting for the tools and we are waiting for the campaign map. But once we have designed all of that, we also need to design gameplay for the factions, so building chains, tech trees, scripts, etc., etc., etc. And that also takes time, and once that's finished, we'll also need to be able to test it. So we need to do a lot of testing with beta testers, multiple rounds of testing, whether the scripts are right, whether there are no bugs, whether things are balanced, whether factions are actually interesting to play. So that is sort of what we're looking at. We're in the phase of design and gameplay now, and we're in the phase of developing the map. And once all of that's ready, we still have to do a lot of testing to see whether the game is actually good as a game. It's fun to play. And after that, once we're satisfied with that, and we think we have a high quality product, we'll release it to you guys.
Yeah, the bottleneck is the tool for the logical mob.
Yeah. So, let's go over another question that is from Link. Oh my God, this is French. L'Intendant de la Tour, I think. So, are you planning on the long term a complete Naval Rework with custom mechanics and units, or will you stick to the vanilla naval system, only adapting it to ROM? So I can safely tell you, I guess, that the mechanics are those that are from the vanilla game. At the same time, we're going to be until now, you haven't had any kind of river assault, port assault, anything with dealing with ships. We didn't have it, but yesterday Leo did something along with the others.
Indeed.
So Leo, do you want to shed a light on what happened yesterday?
Yes. In fact, if we could get OBS to work, we could potentially show it later on if need be. So some of you may have seen some of these posted in previews or whatnot. But for a long time, I'm sure many of you have noticed, our maps, our custom maps, have been isolated, cut off. They've got these little rivers going around them, water borders, however you want to say it. So that's because that's sort of how individual maps are, because they're not connected, they're not on the map, they're there in their own little isolated place. But with a lot of sweat, tears, and blood, Victimized and I have been working for the vast majority for more than for the summer and beyond, actually, on getting it so that we can have those maps on the battle tile map, and which is comprised of tiles. Each of those tiles being a battle map, meaning in a way a procedurally generated map of Middle Earth now because it's custom. Where we can place different settlements on it, allowing us to now have naval battles, port assaults, as we can now actually, for the game, have it so that this is a settlement that's not just sitting here by itself, but this is a settlement that's on a coast with this around it. So, in short, we do now have port assaults. We did a dev clash sort of thing for our sneak peekers yesterday, as sort of a first look at it as we were testing it. But yeah, so get ready for those coming soon. Yeah.
That is great news. Yeah,
let me just say a little bit of details. The battle tile map, just for your reference, is a Middle Earth map specifically designed fully for the battle mode, and all these things, all the maps you place on it, are actually connected, but are restricted by draw distance. But it allows us to achieve a really cool effects like Erebor on the background of the Dale, and these two are two different battle maps. That's the cool thing we can achieve with it, as well as different types of battles. Previously we only had the land and siege battles, now we are open to 12 different battle types. The first one to expect are the port assaults and the ambush battles.
Okay, so yeah, let's move on, guys. We have already answered a lot of questions, but there are a lot more. So you're gonna excuse us if we can't answer every question. And I'm sure we will make another event such as this one in the future. So and let's waste no more time. So what is the plan for the Blue Wizards? Will they be a general unit or just characters that you can join as the Easterlings? I saw a preview. Okay, this is now the questions. So yeah, Maestro, if you want to say something about the Blue Wizards, whatever you have in your mind.
Sure. So the Blue Wizards will probably not feature on first release, but they are very likely to feature on second or third release. Depends a bit on how things go. And the idea for that is that if you've seen our preview of the start positioning map, so with the campaign map with all the factions on it and what territory they hold at game start, you will have noticed that the Easterlings start off divided into 6 clans. And the Blue Wizards will feature as part of that division, in that they will try to persuade some of the clans to rebel against you and to switch sides away from Sauron to the Free Peoples. So if you're dealing with the Easterlings, you'll have to face rebellions, uprisings, and or you can choose to switch sides yourself. So that is roughly what the Blue Wizards will be doing. They'll be trying to nudge to sort of direct your Easterling faction away from Sauron towards fighting for the Free Peoples. I hope that answers the question a bit.
But if I
Okay.
believe there is a third power in that tug of war, a Easterling sort of Easterling faction, neutral faction, I believe, or that could be a bit out of date. With there being
Maestro actually published today his work on the Easterlings. So we actually have a rough idea of the future for that faction, and they're not gonna be neutral. So
Yep. If you play as the Easterlings, what will definitely be the case for first release is that if you play as the Easterlings, you will not control all of the Easterling territory. You will only control one clan. If you look at the starting position map, you'll see that one of the clans is marked in red. That's the clan you'll be playing as, and you will be at war with all the other 5. So you'll actually start in a very tough position because you have to fight and defeat all 5 clans at the same time. That's definitely a feature that you'll see in the first release.
And actually, about that, is there any way that they could, switch sides or something?
That is probably going to be part of a script for the Blue Wizards, which is later down the line.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
How many settlements will the campaign have? And is the campaign selection ring going to be similar to the one Medieval Kingdoms developed as? So basically, the one that Medieval Kingdoms has is basically you can start different start dates, which I don't think it's going to be the case for us at the beginning. And so, do you know more or less like how many settlements will we have in the campaign? They're going to be like huge. So that's actually a bridge for something else. Like if you guys can say something more, either Maestro or Jocks, about the size of our campaign map, about some of these details. Is there gonna be more areas? Comparing it to the vanilla map.
Jocks will be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we can add more regions, but we can't make a frame that's larger than the base game. So the actual size of the map will be roughly the same as the one we have in Attila, but the number of regions will be a bit higher. It'll be exactly 192. I just looked it up.
So, a bit building off of what Maestro was saying. So at the moment, the map is set to be the same size, total size, as the basic Attila one, due to a variety of different things. But eventually, it is possible, way down the line, that there could be a version of the map larger than the Attila one in total size, but not at the moment. But I do believe, actually, if we're talking total playable area, our map does have a slight bit more than base Attila, as there are a fair number of large blocked-off no-go regions in base Attila, a bit more than what we have. So they're roughly the same size, but ours may be a slight bit larger.
Yeah, that's correct.
And now is the correction. So we are not limitless on resources, and especially in Attila, with all the performance taken into the account. CA has a soft limitation for how big the campaign can be, the campaign map itself. And that limitation is defined by the logical map, as known as AKA the hex mob. And the hex mob can be no bigger than a multitude of 1016 on 720. It can't be bigger than this multitude. It can be different ratio, but cannot exceed the number of multiplication of these two numbers. And another limitation is the number of regions. In Attila, we cannot go beyond 255. That's the hard limitation. We cannot cross it. We can have 256 regions. That's it.
Okay, thank you guys. You got your collective answer. This is why all of these people are here. So we have another question, which is amazing because, of course, we can actually say something about the future of the mod. With the new Amazon Second Age Middle-earth series coming out next year, will you guys then be making a new mod with units and factions for the Second Age, or will this be implemented into Rise of Mordor? I know this is early to ask, but I just wanted to see if there is hope of possibility in seeing a Second Age Middle-earth campaign in the near future. So, Jox, if you want to say something about that, or also Maron, either one of you two.
We had a brainstorm of ideas. We have a list of 6 possible campaigns that can come in the future after the grand campaign, independently of it. Sorry, something happened. So basically, you are able to select different campaigns from the UI, like in vanilla, like the Last Roman, all those kind of campaigns. Our Age of Charlemagne. So we are planning, not even developing, not even making the text kind of work. There are 6 possibilities we currently have. The smaller War of the Rings campaign, fully focusing on the Southern War theater. Then we have the possibility for the Second Age mod based on the Amazon series, of course, if that will be successful. We have the third option, that would be the Arnor small campaign focused on the civil war of Arnor and the war against the Angmar. We have the fourth option, that would be the civil war in Gondor. We have fifth option, that would be the combined of Arnorian and Gondorian civil wars, and something else we had. Honestly, I don't even remember. Oh yeah, the Last Alliance, and that would be our beloved campaign. You can take it as given. So when you learn to play Attila, you'll be given the Last Alliance to play. Yeah,
All right.
I'd like to hear what different devs think about it.
Add to that. Oh, sorry. Just to add to that, I mean, the one that I think we all agree is our favourite is the Fall of Arnor, which would be a grand full Middle-earth campaign. And I think lots of our fans would agree in that we would be able to see Angmar, and we would be able to see the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, which have been much requested.
All right.
I want to add something.
Yeah,
quick.
of course.
If they show
go ahead.
more cities and landscapes that aren't shown in the movies, like maybe Arnor's capital or something, I'd be open to either reworking if we've already done that map, or just if we haven't gotten there yet, basing it off that city, or sorry, the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, the Amazon series is gonna be I don't know, like a pool of inspiration for each and every department. I'm sure of it. So we have a question from Morgoth. I hope it's not the Morgoth, and I don't mean the Bala. I mean the YouTuber. What other factions unit can we expect in the future? As we said before, we have a trailer where you can actually see what we are going to work on and what has already been released. What are the most ambitious projects in the works in theory? I'm gonna ask that question to Maron. So what do you think are the most ambitious projects in the mod?
For me, I mean, I'd say that's more of a technical question for Victimized, actually. Off the top of my head, I can think of, well, the campaign map as a whole, but as well as that, the troll animation, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah. And what is your most ambitious project in the mod?
Oh, I don't know. Every concept is ambitious. I always strive to be better. I think as a whole, I really enjoyed reworking the fiefdom units because that was a sort of big project in itself. That was my favorite.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask another question to Frosty, actually. How has working alongside other skillful artists affected your personal artistic development?
Sometimes I feel shamed that I am not as good as them. Yeah, in many details. For example, in Blender, I am selecting still edges one by one, and they are just picking some keyboard shortcuts, and they have selected all what they want, and I look just at it, and oh my god, I'm still noob. Yeah, and in places like that, it's very motivating to be better and better, yeah, because you see them style, but quality of the models. For example, Mega Blue Iron, his quality always is very oh my god for me when I see his high poly. It's like it's possible. Or for example Arnor, yeah, it's always when I see Arnor, it's okay, get out, you are too good. Yeah, but it's very good, I think, for everyone to have someone who is better from him by side by side. Yeah, because you can take inspiration, you are more motivated to be better, and your stuff is getting better and better. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a great answer to this question. We have actually another one in terms of how did you like working for Rise of Mordor or something like that. So Ered, I want to ask this question to you. Being a part of Rise of Mordor, has it taught you new skills in terms of 2D art?
Yes, definitely, most definitely. Before I joined the team, I didn't know how to draw on Photoshop, for example. I had no idea how to draw digitally. I did all my art by traditional material, and then I joined the team, and thanks to Mayron now, I actually understand better how to work with Photoshop, and I do most of my work on Photoshop now, so I guess it helped a lot.
Yeah, that is understandable. So we have gotten a lot of questions about, still, of course, the campaign, and I'm just looking for it. Okay, here it is. This is a question from Orthodeer. We have loads of names from, something similar to Sindarin. So Maestro, how is diplomacy going to be implemented in Rise of Mordor? Will factions declare war on you regardless of your alignment? This can also, I guess, shed some light on, the religion system.
Good question. The answer to that in brief is that our mod will strive as much as possible to mimic a strife between good and evil. So we strive to prevent Gondor declaring war on Rohan or Erebor declaring war on Dale, that sort of stuff. We try to prevent that as much as possible. And yes, diplomacy will be crucial in that. From a technical point of view, we'll probably rely a lot on alliances and relations settings. And as for the religion mechanic Elegy hinted at, it's actually very interesting because Attila obviously has lots of different religions, but we're only going to use two. One for the free peoples and one for the evil guys. And yes, as playing as the evil guys, you want to try and prevent the sort of influence from the free peoples to encroach onto your territory, because you get all kinds of negative side effects from that. And if you play a shadow, you try to corrupt the world around you and try to spread your influence as much as possible. So that's sort of a battle going on, a sort of battle of religions almost going on there. So the evil religion sort of represents corruption and shadow and all that, whereas the free people's religion represents the power of nature and the power of the West and all of that. And that will also be helpful in diplomacy, because there's a feature called religious affinity. And if we want to make sure that allies don't declare war on each other, we can just crank up religious affinity to a bonus of plus 500 or something to prevent them from declaring war on each other. The short answer, very much good versus evil.
If I may add, there are some questions about the sandbox campaign. I'll just shoot ahead and kind of spoil you guys. So we're not making the sandbox kind of campaign where you can just do anything you like. We're approaching it like a director's cut. Like, we are interpreting the books in the way we see them. So when you play the game, you'll kind of feel like you're doing, like you are repeating the way events fire, the way it does in books. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and also about this, because there were many questions about this one. Will we have a multiplayer campaign, and if so, how will it be different from the grand campaign and single player? Jocks, you can keep answering that one.
Yeah, so it will be available, and yes, it will be different from the single player due to some of the restrictions. We'll have to strip the whole campaign of some scripts and stuff that will cause the desyncs. So we'll avoid the mechanics that will cause the desync. Other than that, it will be similar. And welcome, Mega.
Hello, Mega. Welcome, Mega.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I was a little late. Just had to run some errands, but I'm here.
Yeah, don't worry. We know that you're on another part of the world.
Yeah.
And also, Frosty is going to be leaving us.
Sorry, I have to go for a date with my girlfriend because I know reason.
Yeah, that's why you're not streaming anymore at night. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the only reason.
Seriously, girlfriends are going to kill Rise of Mordor.
Maybe not. I hope, but not. Okay, so see ya. Thanks for all.
Bye, man. Thank you very much.
Bye.
So, since Mega has joined the stream, we can actually ask him some questions. The Lord of Mordor and the guy who made those amazing tier 3 units. So there was some questions about how to make units, basically. Can you help us out a bit, answer these questions? What tools do you use for units creation? And go ahead.
Yeah, so the primary one I use is Blender. It's nice and free. So there's a variety of software you use for different kind of things you're trying to achieve. For example, there are certain software that specialize in like sculpting and things for cloth and simulations and whatnot. So my entire process is cloth things. I use Marvelous Designer, which I'm currently learning. It's kind of the leading thing for that. Blender to model, unwrap, do a bunch of stuff, kind of set up for textures. It's mostly a lot of the modeling stuff. And then to make my high detail model, to get all my details, I either use Blender or ZBrush. ZBrush is a very good sculpting software. And then I put that all into Substance Painter, and that's where I apply my materials and textures and just kind of gives the material its look and stuff. And then from there, I put it into 3ds Max, and that's where I rig it so I essentially map it to the skeletons so it can move in the game, and export it as well. And basically, I can just view it kind of in game from there with some tools, and then I usually just send it out to someone else to kind of put it into the pack and stuff. That's my overall process in terms of software. And so, yeah, Blender's free, great. It's a great starting one. Simpsons Painter, you can get like a student license or whatever for free as well. Same with 3ds Max. So a lot of these software I am kind of just getting for free with student licenses and whatnot like that.
All right. And also, since you're there, can you tell these guys how they can learn 3D modeling? Briefly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Aside from your own streams, which are
yeah,
amazing to learn on.
Thank you. I mean, the best way to go about it is I really recommend picking up Blender. It's a very good all-rounded software. You can dabble into everything. I mainly use it for modeling, but you can technically rig in it and texture in it and sculpt in it, right? It's kind of got and simulate in it if you really want to. It's got everything there. Obviously, some software are better in certain specializations, but pick up Blender. It's free. I highly recommend a great tutorial series. I know everyone knows about this, but there's this famous donut one by Blender Guru. He also does what I would personally recommend. Maybe if you have absolutely zero experience and are trying to just pick things up, you could do the donut one. But there's a really great one by Blender Guru called Intermediate Blender Tutorial, and he makes an anvil in it. But the thing is, in our kind of for the mod, right? It's a lot of armor and stuff, right? You're seeing a lot of hard surface stuff, some edge wear and metallic things like that, and sharp angles and whatnot. And so in that tutorial series, I think it's really great where he makes the anvil because he goes over, a hard surface modeling kind of technique. It's making those kind of hard kind of shapes and corners. And also sculpting and stuff. He does do a bunch of really great texture stuff to achieve a very realistic metal look, with wear on the edges and whatnot. So I really recommend that one. Feel free to message me if you want the link to that tutorial. But it is just called Intermediate Blender Tutorial on YouTube, Blender Guru. That's what I highly recommend. Just pick up Blender, follow that tutorial, and you'll get a great kind of starting point on all of that.
Great answer. I hope that many people will start, working on 3D. So we get, this is just, some kind of investment for the future. For the mod, it's just for that. So, once you guys have picked up that stuff, maybe, try to apply. And now that we're here talking about technical stuff, I guess we can also announce that we are working on a launcher for the mod, which is going to make the moderators' life much easier, with all the issues that people have on, installing the mod. So, Case, if you want to say something about it, Case is the man. He's the guy who made it, and he's working on it. So, if you want to say something about it.
Sure. So, well, like you said, what we are working on is a launcher for the mod. And basically what it does is this launcher will download and install the mod automatically for you. When there's new updates, it will do all of that for you, mostly because we've had a lot of, like 80% of our questions in the Discord are about installation stuff, so it's gonna make it a lot easier. It will also launch the game with all the correct mods, and it will also install and enable community made sub mods as well automatically. So it's just gonna make life a lot easier. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that is amazing, especially the ones about the sub mod, because of course, we enjoy a lot that people are trying to participate in the process by making their own sub mods. So let's move on to some other question. Let's try with actually, as soon as I find it, there was a question about rivers, and I guess Leo can help us out on that one. So, what's this guy is called Penguas Sakuching? Okay, so this is of course we had the most random names. And which settlements will be riverline ports that guards a crossing, forcing a strategic bottleneck other than Osgiliath, of course. So he's asking about the strategic value of rivers
What number
and
question is
such in the campaign. What?
what like number question is this on the list?
34.
Right.
So
I cannot help but notice
it's easier, of course, guys. So
are made. So there's two different ways sort of across the river. You've got land bridges. That's sort of their technical name in the game. That's where you can cross a sailable river. And pretty much if there's a settlement on a river, there's going to be a land bridge through there. And there's a multitude of settlements with that. In fact, you know what? We might as well take a look. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can give you, looking at this beautiful new concept Mehran has made, a bit of a better answer as to how many of those there are going to be. There are, and also with trade routes. Perhaps Maestro can answer this a slight bit better, with how trade routes are going to work in regards to controlling different rivers. But
Yeah. In relation to the rivers, Leo was right. We've been working on an update for the campaign map, a new concept. We're trying to figure out how to make it work as well as we can with the current development, so that we don't have to redo things unnecessarily. In relation to the rivers, off the top of my head, I think the number of rivers you'll be able to access with fleets, so from the sea, is 3. And that will be the river Gwathlo, sailing up to Tharbad, the river Anduin, sailing up to either Kyrandros or Osgiliath. I can't remember off the top of my head. And the third one is the river Harnen, which is a river in Harad.
And I believe, going back to your question, sorry, Maestro. Looking at this, in regards to taking trade routes and whatnot, river trade seems to be most important in Eriador, but along those big sailable rivers, we've got places like Umbar, Pelagir, and Londair seem to be those 3 sort of bottleneck settlements, if I believe I know what you were talking about. So yes, there is sort of going to be that you trade important cities for trade along rivers.
I'll just say a little bit about the trade routes. So trade routes aren't really as much of importance. So there is a possibility you will not have any of them on the initial release, and that's because of because trade routes aren't important. We can have a campaign without any trade routes, without any dynamic resources, and for the initial release, we'll aim to deliver it as fast as possible. So we might strip some of the content initially.
Okay, so I think all of this stuff answered that question. Now we have quite a curious one, which is from Matt, and he's asking, do you see Rise of Mordor as a direct competitor to Divide and Conquer? Is there any communication between the two teams? So I can answer this second question more or less, and I leave the rest to Victimize, who's also been in the scene for a really long time. There is some communication, meaning that I have actually spoken briefly with Lord of the Rings, just because we are all dealing with the Lord of the Rings universe, and we want to be connected in some ways, because we don't really share the idea of any kind of hatred or something. So we are actually I call that a fellowship or something. So basically they are following our previews, and we are following theirs. So Victimize, for the other question, do you see Rise of Mordor as a direct competitor to Divide and Conquer?
Not a direct competitor, simply because we do not fight for the same audience, and simply because you can play one and the other. When you compete, you choose one, but the truth about Rom and Dark is you can play both. So no, the answer is no.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a really long, asked question, which is about single entity units. We can try to answer that one at least on this stream. So maybe, Maron, do you want to answer that one? Will custom characters only appear as generals, or perhaps some will be single entity units? I think we lost Maron.
If mine is,
so
I can help answer that
yeah,
question.
Maestro, go ahead. Yeah.
So single entity units are a bit problematic because they're very hard to balance and they don't really work in Attila. So what we're likely going to do, or very likely, is that we will add custom characters like Aragorn and all of those, but they'll have a bodyguard unit. An exception is perhaps the Nazgul. We're thinking of adding a special Nazgul unit with just Nazgul in them, so no bodyguards. And Sauron. Sauron is a bit unclear at the moment. Maybe Jox has some ideas for that, but yeah, but mostly bodyguards.
No, not ready to answer to that.
Okay, so let's move on to some other questions. Let's see. Okay, this is actually okay. So regarding to always generals and stuff, will there be some kind of system with generals units capacity to simulate some kind of magic on the battlefield? Like, for example, Saruman being able to force push kill, which is quite funny because it is not Count Dooku. Some units with some invisible, barely visible ballista ammo. So I don't know, guys, if you can share some light, shed some light on this kind of stuff, especially aside from magic abilities, which I don't think we can. Of course, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe let's talk about general abilities. So those that are in vanilla, can we change them? And if so, how? Jox, maybe, do you want to say something about it? Or Maestro?
Yeah, let Maestro answer that.
Alright.
Okay.
So in terms of visual magic, the short answer is probably no, because of game limitations. So you will not see Saruman choosing fireballs or that sort of stuff. But Attila obviously has abilities for generals and for units, and we might be able to rely on those for special abilities, powerful abilities for special units or characters. That might be possible, yeah. Using abilities like Rally and Brace and Charge, you have those for Attila in the base game. Yeah, it's definitely possible to convert those with other or new effects.
Okay. That's absolutely great. When do you expect Arnor to be added? So still maybe Maestro, if you want to say something about it. But of course, like we said earlier, that it's going to be in the last release. So
yeah. So
maybe yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're doing the release in 3 waves. So first we're releasing sort of the eastern area of Middle-earth, then the second release, the central area, and then the third release, the Eredor area. So Arnor will feature in the third release.
Okay, we have another question that is one of the most asked ones, and it is about audio. Okay, so have you planned to add custom voices for units in battle, like orc sounds? And if yes, will you take some sounds from the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit movies? Victimized, do you want to answer that?
The audio question, well, the audio would go to the Maestro. He's in charge of audio and music. I can say that the voices are moddable, but not as moddable as you can think. We are restricted to replacing the vanilla files.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna take some time. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Go
just explain that it's going to take a bit of time because audio modding is quite hard, quite cumbersome in terms of effort. So that's probably something for the longer term, but it is possible. So we will eventually get rid of Gondor soldiers seeing for Rome and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so it's gonna take some time, basically, guys. So be patient. You are gonna be hearing Soldiers of Christ for some time more. Maybe Crapshack, do you want to answer this one? When you're in the campaign, and let's say Minas Tirith, you have Minas Tirith, of course. So, like, I have to paraphrase the question. Is the model of the city going to be vanilla or custom? And with that, I mean the model on the campaign map.
So actually, I might be the one to answer this rather than Crapshack.
Yeah, sure.
So yes, there will be a custom model. Not only that, but there's a chance of a custom, actually dynamic model, like you have the dynamic cities in Base Attila that grow and expand. So yes, there will be a custom model, fully selectable and stuff, and that will be the city. It won't just be a custom model separate from the city, like you might see in like some things like Crusader Kings or something. But there will be a full custom model there that is the city.
Okay. So since we're talking about custom cities, etc., one mechanic that okay, that was weird. One mechanic that we see a lot of the time on Attila is the one of escalation. So we were actually talking about it yesterday, and there's also a question about it. So, Crapshack, do you want to say something about escalation and how are we going to implement it in our mod? And if so, if we are actually, because in the end it's gonna be a different effort. So,
wait, can you rephrase the question for me again?
So basically, escalation is a big part of Total War Attila battles and sieges. Yeah. Are we gonna add it? And if so, in what ways? If there is something specific you can tell us.
Yeah, we're just now starting that with the port assault, the ambush battle. The third thing we're gonna try and do is escalation. For one map, and then we'll probably all try and figure out how it works and do it for all the maps in the future. Maybe, are the more iconic ones. Yeah, we're just now getting onto that, but it will be coming.
Okay.
So I'll just address a little bit about the escalations, because the question was about the Minas Tirith. I can tell you by the example of Minas Tirith how the escalation is going to work. So you'll be, so when you first attack the Minas Tirith, it's going to look like for the film version where you attack the first layer. If you besiege the Minas Tirith for a couple of turns and you'll start the siege, we basically have multiple options how we can play around that. We can have the attacker start at the level 2 of the city and attack on the level 2, or we can adjust the first level, like have the orcs already inside the first level, like adjust the deployment zones and stuff like that. And at the third escalation level, it can be the fight at the white tree. So just so you guys understand what the escalations levels are, how they connect with the battle maps.
Okay, so there's that about escalation. Let's move on to another question from Martin, who was actually coming from Reddit. We are there as well if you want to join our Reddit. And he's asking, do you plan to add other dwarf factions such as the Blue Mountains? Maron, these questions I want to ask you because I think they're quite related to some of your work.
Sure. If only Frusty was here to answer.
Yeah.
So yes, our as you may well know, Erebor is already in the game. And the other dwarven faction we're going to include is Ered Luin, and that is in very, very early concept stage at the moment. And regarding other dwarven clans or factions like Khazad-dûm and the Red Mountains, those units, there's only 1 or 2 units available in the Erebor roster, and they won't be their own factions.
Unless there's a sub-mod from Frosty who's going to make it in like
Yes.
1 month.
Or the, of course, the alternate timeline campaigns.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So there is another question from always from Martin, and it's about actually the map with the start position that we published a few weeks ago. So some time ago you published a map showing the initial territories of individual factions. The uncolored white territories on the map represent destroyed cities, or will they belong to rebel factions? Maron, if you want to answer that one as well. Since Maestro has a lot of other questions.
I'm not sure. I think Maestro is the guy for that.
Okay, so yeah, Maestro.
Desolate is the answer. Those white territories will start off as ruined.
Okay, so yeah, basically we don't have the rebel thing, but of course Attila offers the ruined city mechanics. So I want to ask a question to Edward, our Elven concept artist, if he's there.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So actually, what was the hardest unit to make for you?
What? Excuse me, can you repeat?
What was the hardest unit that you have ever had to conceptualize?
I don't quite understand the question. Sorry.
So
okay,
so in your history with Rise of Mordor, you've had quite a lot of designs that you've made.
Mm-hmm.
Which one of those was the most difficult to make?
Oh yeah, I'd say the Heroes of Amon Lang, because I didn't want them to look like the other Lothlorien units, but they still had to feel special and unique. And they had to fit in with the army, so those guys were definitely pretty difficult to do. And I had a lot of difficulties doing dwarves at the start. Because I just joined the team, and I didn't quite, I wasn't quite there yet with the how I should work with the Weta inspiration and all of that stuff. So yeah, it took me a fair amount of time to understand, but after a bunch of analyzing and testing what works and what doesn't, you eventually come around with some ideas.
Yeah, indeed. And you have made quite a good work with each and every one of them.
Thanks a lot.
You guys, if you want to, you in the chat, if you want to see the rest of the work that we've made, of course it's on the Trello, link in the description, and maybe a moderator can post it again. And of course you can join our Discord and see previews. So I want to ask a question to Mega, or Crapshack actually. First of all, do you guys play either one of the new the older games, such as the older mods actually, Third Age or Divide and Conquer?
I played Third Age like forever ago, before it had like the Reforged part, but I no longer have I get a new PC, so I can't play my disc version of Medieval 2, so I've just moved on from those mods. But I used to. But I've not played Divide and Conquer.
Okay. And what about you, Mega?
Yeah, I haven't played many. Like I played like Medieval 2 and stuff, and a bunch of the old Total Wars, but I haven't played any mods for any of those. I actually heard about Rise of Mordor because I was recommended Third Age when I was like in elementary school, and then I looked it up, and then I found Rise of Mordor when it was in very, very, very early development. So I'm like, I might as well just get Attila instead of Medieval 2, or I might as well get, the Rise of Mordor mod. And then I soon after joined.
All right, that's amazing. Okay, so I want to ask Case if he can actually start the game with the campaign map.
Sure.
So we can, you know, guys, you can actually see some of the campaign map, actually. So this is the latest progress from Leo.
Yeah,
So,
so I'll start it up, just continue with the questions, and I'll let you know when it's ready. Okay.
Yeah, and of course it can be some kind of, you know, a nice background to some campaign questions. So let me just get something. Yeah, here we go. So this is a question from Noyan, and we haven't previewed it yet because we actually want to make a video out of it. So briefly, Maestro, can you is he back? Okay, he's back. Perfect. So Maestro, can you say something about the mechanics for the One Ring? So, you know, the whole thing that you have conceptualized, and you know, whether we are working on it or not.
Yes. So the One Ring is featured in 2 scripts, one for Mordor and one for Isengard. The Mordor script has been drafted fully, and our script guys, who are sadly not here today, but our script guys are starting to plan out how to implement that in the game already. So essentially what happens if you're playing as Mordor is that you have to find the Ring of Power, otherwise you can't get Sauron, and what's worse, you can't really unleash your faction to the maximum potential. So you can't really get access to high-level buildings and big armies and all of that. So the Ring of Power is very crucial if you play as Mordor. What you have to do, in brief, is to send out your Nazgul as agents and look for the creature Golem, and then he might have the ring, but he might not have the ring. If he doesn't, you have to go to a place Golem identifies, and then again, he might have been lying, in which case you have to find Golem again, or he might have been telling the truth, and in that case you'll find the ring. So there's a bit of chance involved there. Sometimes you'll be able to get the ring very quickly, sometimes you might not get the ring for a very long time. When you do find the ring, you have to bring it back to Mordor, and then you get all the bonuses that are involved with that. We did talk about Isengard already, but just to briefly recap, if you're playing as Saruman, at one point during your gameplay you'll be asked to find the Ring of Power, and when you do, and you bring it back to Isengard, Sauron will demand it from you. So Sauron will come to you and say, "Give me back my ring." And at that point you have a choice. Say no, at which point you declare war on Mordor and go on by yourself. Or if you say yes, you'll give the ring to Sauron and get all sorts of bonuses from him. So that's sort of how the Ring of Power is planned at the moment.
Okay, so we actually have some other questions still about the campaign, and so these are more detailed about, you know, the lifespan of characters. So will it be realistic, meaning that how will we deal with you know, elves, and of course dwarves, being, you know, they can get older, Dunedain as well. So, you know,
yeah,
still Maestro.
good question. The good thing about Attila is that it offers several options as regards time. In Attila, it is possible to make it so that 1 turn equals 1 month, so 12 turns per year. I think the base game is 4 turns per year, but you can make it to 12 turns per year, which means that 1 turn is a month. And that means 120 turns is 10 years. So that sort of gets rid of all the character and logic problems there, because any character can live for 10 years unless the character happens to be very old. So the great thing about the 12 turns per year system is that you'll have your iconic characters alive for the majority of your campaign, unless they happen to die in a battle or something like that. So that sort of solves all the issues by default.
All right. So I can already see that Case is in the game. He's in the campaign map.
Yep.
And that is actually amazing. So chat, if you want to tell us what to do with this camera, you know, where do you want us to zoom in? Case maybe stop somewhere, and then we can start from there. As soon as someone says, you know, let us check somewhere.
Sure, I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Yeah, perfect. So let's go over other questions. So, actually, there is this question that often comes on YouTube because we have actually mentioned these mechanics for some time. This mechanic is militancy, and we are actually going to be that is actually going to be the mechanics that takes the place of sanitation. So, can you, Maestro, explain us something about that? That mechanic.
Sure. So when I got into that, I thought to myself, people building aqueducts and fountains and all that, it's not really sort of immersion for the Lord of the Rings setting we're in. So I came up with the idea of militancy. Militancy is essentially the extent to which a faction's population is willing to fight. Obviously, throughout the book, you see people in the Shire and Bree, but also dwarves and elves not being willing to fight because they want to leave Middle Earth, just stay in their homes, etc., etc. So, what you need to be doing as a player is make sure that your faction and your regions, the regions you have, are militant. So, what you need to do is construct certain buildings and make sure that the militancy level is at least 1. If it drops below 1, you risk incurring all kinds of penalties to your military. For example, not being able to recruit any units from that region. So that can really hurt your military capacities. So think of it as really as a replacement for sanitation. If you have too much squalor, you risk diseases breaking out. It's essentially the same thing. If your militancy is too low, people will start refusing to fight, and you will not be able to recruit units from your regions. So that's essentially how it works.
Alright, so the stream has been going on for quite a while, so maybe we can start answering some questions in the chat. What do you think, guys? The rest of the developers?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think this is the time where we can answer some questions. So, chat, let's start with, answering some of your questions. So you can just write them in the chat. I will maybe ask one more questions as soon as the stream has caught up. Then we can start answering those. So, Maestro, one last questions. Will items from the books make an appearance and have effects in game?
Yes, they will, so as much as we can.
Yeah, do you have any idea of which ones do you want to implement, or those are you are looking forward the most?
No concrete, not any concrete ideas yet, because we're a bit early in the development phase yet. But do expect stuff like swords and heirlooms and books and that sort of stuff. All the items rings of power, definitely. So yeah, definitely looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, perfect. And another question that got asked was if you were planning to do something with the Palantiri.
One of them, yes. For Saruman, remember we're talking about when we were talking about him trying to look for the Ring of Power. The Palantir features in that. In order for Saruman to try and find the Ring of Power, he'll have to look into the Palantir. If it goes well, he'll get some information as to where the ring is. But if it goes poorly, Sauron will see him watching, and that will hurt your relations with Mordor, because Sauron is starting to realize that Saruman is looking for the ring himself, and obviously Sauron doesn't like that. So that's sort of a double-edged sword Saruman will be in. He'll have to use the Palantir to find the ring, but if it goes wrong, Sauron will catch him and be upset about that. So that's how the Palantir will feature for him.
Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? Yeah, perfect, sorry. There's one question from the chat, which is, do you think there's still a chance to change some units from factions like Lorien or Arnor? Who wants to answer that? Maybe, I don't know if you guys like, I want to hear the artists as well, so maybe Maron? Maron isn't here.
Sorry,
I guess.
I was busy for a second. What? Do you mind repeating that?
Yeah. Hold on, because Jox is making polls. Javier asked, do you think there's still a chance to change some units from factions like Lorien or Arnor?
I would say Arnor, yes. Lorien, no. Although I mean they're both still in the works, but more work has been done on Lorien, while Arnor still is in the concept stage.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, the answer is that once those factions are physically done and maybe even released, or at least in a testing phase, we can actually understand whether something is missing or not, and then we can act on it. Victor Nortz, did you get some inspiration lore-wise from other Lord of the Rings games, Lord of the Rings Online, for example? So he's asking lore-wise. So maybe yes, still Maestro. Can you answer that maybe?
Lore-wise, essentially no. In terms of lore, we try to follow the books as much as we can, and relying on visuals from the film. But other than the films and the books and other stuff by Christopher Tolkien and all of that, those people, generally no, we don't take inspiration from other games. Also because we're trying to be as unique as possible.
Okay. So maybe artistically speaking, so maybe Crapshack, did you maybe see some map that you liked on Lord of the Rings Online and say, I'm gonna see
one
what I can
thing
do with it?
I can go ahead and say with Minas Morgul, we're doing the movie version, but at the same time, I'm gonna do a submod based on the Shadow of War version for Meduseld. So they'll all come together, so everyone can play which one they want.
Yeah, amazing. So guys, keep asking questions in the chat. I'm gonna scroll up a little bit, maybe I can find something else. Tom Bob is asking, are there other features like population you're thinking of implementing? So Maestro still.
A lot of campaign questions today, eh?
Yeah, of course everyone is curious about that.
Yeah, so population like we see in Medieval 1212 AD, which is a great mod, you should check it out. Not for now, because it's not priority. It's not something that we should probably not something we should delay release for, but we might do it in the longer term because it gives us loads of options and making stuff more real with recruitment and all of that. But for the moment, no, unfortunately.
Okay. So I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. We have had quite a lot of viewers. We answered many questions, I think, at least as much as we can. We have been going on for a while, but right? You're like almost 2 hours, actually. So guys, if you have any other questions, please send them in the chat. Otherwise, we can just hop off and say our goodbyes. Maybe everyone can say something in the end. Like, you can actually tell us,
give us a feedback.
How is your experience right now with Rise of Mordor? How are you feeling working in the project? That's quite a broad.
I'll just address the people in chat. Just give us a feedback on what stream, because we need a feedback on how it went.
Yeah. So, okay, there we go. Have you considered making a way for the good factions to defeat Mordor by destroying the ring? It seems like it would be a big improvement for role-playing playthroughs, Maestro.
Yes, we have been I've been considering that. But I can assure you that for the good faction, there will be plenty of options other than finding the ring, because essentially think of it this way. None of the factions had anything to do with the Ring of Power other than Isengard, Mordor, and Imladris for hosting the Council of Elrond, but Gondor and Rohan had basically nothing to do with the ring themselves, so it's a bit tricky how to implement that. Most likely you'll find something for Imladris, so Rivendell, being able to set up such a mission and working on that. But for the initial few releases, probably not for the good factions. But rest assured, they'll have plenty of unique scripts to make their gameplay interesting.
Okay, so yeah, there are a few more questions that can be answered simply by saying, check out Trello. Ambar will be a sub-faction in the Arad roster. It will also be some kind of, independent, but a passive faction, that is the word. And you won't be able to play it, but you will be able to play the Serpent tribe. And then, similarly to the Easterlings, you will be able to unite the Haradrim tribes. So with that, I think we can call it off. So if you guys want to say something for the end.
Energy, thank you for your input today and the way you've led this Q&A. I think you did a very good job. And as Fabio in the chat said, just wanted to say the way you guys update your fan base is something I've never seen before. Keep it up. That's very much a compliment for you and all the work you've been doing behind the scenes and managing social media and the community and all of that. So good job with that. Thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Maestro. Yeah, and thank you very much, Fabio. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
So guys,
who was
yeah.
here.
Completely agree.
And also thanks to everyone who's watching, of course.
Everyone watching.
Yeah, thanks for all the questions.
Yeah, there were so many, and we will try, to make this event some other time, so we can, finish answering some questions, and maybe you will be able to ask more, of course. So thank you very much, guys, and see you on the hopefully next stream.
Yes. Bye bye.
Yeah. We'll analyze how it went, and based on that, we'll see if we can do it once again or more times again.